the guy loves football. Yeah, everybody makes fun of him for being a big dope, but, I mean, if that guy goes out and competes every play until the whistle, whether it's blocking, receiving, or whatever, and he puts his body on the line, he reminds me a lot of Dennis Rodman from back in the early 90s, late 80s. Like, the dude just, he goes for it. But anyway, O.J. Howard, I really wanted the Packers to trade for him last year. I thought it was going to happen. Yeah. I'm a huge believer in his talent, but coming off an Achilles injury, and then on top of that, you've got all the receivers returning, plus they added the rookie Darden, and then on top of that, you've got Gronk still there, you've got Brate still there. I just don't see him being a viable, trustworthy option week in, week out. I don't know if that makes him a high floor, low ceiling guy more so, or a guy you want to buy in best ball. I really haven't figured that out yet, because I've only been drafting him when he's a last resort, as in if I'm doing best ball and I only have one tight end on my roster and I need another one because you got to have that backup, at least one backup. He's been a guy I've been grabbing in that situation, or else if I've just been sitting and waiting on tight end in a regular redraft league, I've ended up with a couple that way. But I'm not buying big time on him this year. The talent is there, but there's too many question marks for me.
Fair enough. Talking with Nat Patzke, the 26-time FFPC high-stakes league winner on the show tonight, the HSFFO, happy to have you on, Nat, and so is Kevin Williamson, who has a question in the chat room right now for you. He wants to know, now that we know where all these rookie quarterbacks are going to be this year, which one do you think is going to have the best season? Is it simply Trevor Lawrence? Or would you be looking at, from a fantasy perspective, would you be looking at a guy like Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones even? Your thoughts on the rookie quarterbacks if you just look at the 2021 season and not from a dynasty perspective?
From just a single season perspective and fantasy aspect, I would say probably Trevor Lawrence, just because the weapons that he has there and the terrible defense that they have there, I think they're going to make him have a lot of easy throws, and he's also very capable of making the intermediate and deep throws. And with guys like Chark and all the other dudes on that roster, I think he's going to be pretty well set. Although, I mean, Zach Wilson has a pretty good setup up in New York. It's hard to fathom how many weapons they suddenly have on offense. But I don't know. It's hard to believe anybody in New York's going to do anything. The last quarterback they had that was worth anything was Favre, I think, for 8 weeks. But, man, I don't trust that Fields is going to get on the field right away. I don't trust that Nagy's a good coach. So I'm having a hard time buying him, although I'm a huge Fields fan. I just don't know that this is his year yet. And Trey Lance, with the limited amount of football that he's played, especially against high-ranking competition, I'm not buying him this year. I just have a hard time believing that he sees the field very much, because with that defense and the offense coming back healthy, I think San Fran's going to be in the hunt the whole way through, and I don't see them switching to the backup quarterback. So, and Mac Jones, he's the perfect fit for Josh McDaniels. I don't think you could have found a guy that's more similar to Brady for him. And I think with the two tight ends that they brought in and the receivers that they've got, he would actually be a viable option if McDaniels has the chance to really coach him up. But I don't think he's going to get in there right away. I think Cam will hold that down. So I got to go with Trevor Lawrence.
I want to shift the conversation here, Nat, to some the FFPC best ball tournament, which I know you're participating in. I know you got some drafts going on there. I'm curious as to how your strategy changes when you're trying to beat out, hundreds of teams in this tournament for a $100,000 grand prize, as opposed to when you're just trying to beat out 11 teams for, in a closed league. I'm just curious, does your strategy change at all? Are you doing some different things in the best ball tournament that you wouldn't be doing in a closed best ball league? How has it been different for you drafting in that tournament?
I'm going to liken it to DFS play, where you're either playing a head-to-head matchup or in a big tournament. The bigger the tournament you're playing, the more chances you have to take. And that's what I would say this best ball tournament is more like. if you're not taking chances on guys that have some question marks, whether it's a guy like Watson or Winston or Rodgers or something like that, the guy's tied to those guys, I don't think you're going to be able to beat people out unless every one of those questions gets answered negatively. I don't think you're going to be able to beat the guys out at the end. I've only really played best ball in one league. I have a dynasty league that I've done for 3 years. It's the first time I ever did it, and I got lucky and managed to draft Delvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Zeke, I think, and Aaron Jones in the first year.
Oh, my.
James Conner, too. So my receivers are pretty thin, but I've won it 3 years in a row. And so I was trying to look at that and think, okay, maybe I can draft a bunch of running backs like that. But then thinking back, I didn't get those running backs rounds 1 through 4. I mean, I've got Aaron Jones late. I got Delvin Cook later, not right away. Same thing with Henry. So Zeke was the only guy I had to draft early. So I think the big thing is just a lot of people get caught up on trying to have a plan when they go into a draft, and the only plan I really have is I draft who the league gives me. If you're going to give me the best receiver in the league, I'm going to take the best receiver. If you give me the best running back or tight end, that's what I'm going to do. And you got to be like Bruce Lee would say, you got to be like water. You got to be able to fill whatever container they give you. So the big thing is just being flexible, and you got to have enough depth to handle your bye weeks and everything. So instead of doing 2 tight ends for something like that, I'm probably doing 3 tight ends. Same thing with quarterback, if you can pull it off. But I would say the big thing is taking some chances. If you don't take any chances, you're probably not winning that overall.
That's exactly right. You know, I love the way you brought up Brett Favre twice now in a conversation. I love that.
He's always on my mind.
You can tell that you are a true a guy that bleeds with the players that he's always rooting for. So that's a cool quality, and I could tell in your voice that you really love football. I'm going to go back to Super Bowl Sunday. I guess I'm just stuck on the very last game of the year, but you know, I enjoyed a lot of the aspects about the game, but I sure did not enjoy the Kansas City receiver core once you went away from Tyreek Hill in the tight end position. So I'm looking at the situation of these new players that are coming into Kansas City to capture the number 2 wide receiver position. Probably my greatest dark horse amongst all the rookie receivers is the kid I saw at Clemson. Had a tough time getting going in his college career. You know, we talked about Jalen Reagor earlier, a guy that had a tremendous college career, had a tough time getting going in the NFL. But you take a guy like Cornell Powell out of Clemson this year, and I just have a feeling that this guy is going to connect and be a player that we can expect significant things for in his rookie year. Do you have a favorite for that number 2 wide receiver position in Kansas City? And if it ever clicks, how fantasy relevant could it be? And what would you compare it to in the NFL?
Well, Mahomes has never supported anybody outside of really Kelsey and Hill on a consistent basis. So I'm not expecting big things out of second receiver, but that's not for lack of effort. They signed Watkins to a huge contract as a free agent, and so it's not for lack of effort. I do believe that Andy Reid wants to get somebody to take the pressure off of Tyreek, somebody to take the pressure off of Kelsey, so they can get those guys in more opportune situations.
And he's using it as a committee. He's using a committee to get there, and I don't think it's working.
For sure. So, I mean, you've got Robinson, who's been there. You've got Pringle, who they talked up, but, I mean, he's another guy like Robinson as far as I'm concerned. I think they talk him up more so just to keep him interested because he's a big special teamer. And then you've got Hardman. Guy was drafted pretty high. He's lightning fast, but the guy hasn't really learned to run routes yet, and I don't think that's going to change. It just doesn't seem like he's going to get it. I think he's going to be more of a Cordero Patterson type in his career where he's just got all the athletic talent in the world, but he just never clicks as a receiver. The Powell kid, I mean, he's interesting. I looked into him, and I drafted him in a couple of dynasty leagues, but the guy I really like is free in every league, and that's Antonio Callaway. Nobody knows he's even on the roster.
Right.
I mean, he's got first-round talent on the field, but he's also got Josh Gordon talent off the field. So, so many issues, but if the guy gets it to click, and Andy Reid's going to give the dude a shot because that's just what Reid does. But, I mean, I think he's the most talented receiver outside of Hill on that roster. So if he keeps his stuff together off the field, I like his chances of being somebody who produces in that offense. Maybe it doesn't happen right away, but once he earns a spot, I think he's the best chance to actually be a viable second option, unless Hardman all of a sudden figures out how to run routes.
Yeah, and people have written off Callaway, and I'll remind everyone Callaway is 24 years old, so he's got time to straighten it out.
He does have time, and he was a pedigreed guy too. I mean, would have been a first-round pick if it wasn't for the off-the-field stuff for sure. And when you pair him with Mahomes, and you get those other guys around him, and Hill and Kelsey, and there's certainly a lot to like there for the price, right? I mean, you could get him for free right now, and he could pay off huge. Let's stay in the AFC here, Nat. I want to shift over to the AFC North and talk about the Bengals backfield. What are your thoughts on the fantasy value that can be mined there? Is it simply just you draft Joe Mixon and forget it, or is there somebody else there should be paying attention to? Chris Evans, Samaje Perine, anybody like that in the Bengals backfield that you could get after Mixon that you think is worthwhile for FFPC owners to do this year?
I actually thought Travion Williams looked pretty good last year when he got the opportunity, so I was pretty surprised to see them go out and get Evans and Puka Williams. I just didn't see that coming. But, I mean, they coached up Chris Evans in that the Senior Bowl or whatever, and they got a first-hand look at him. I've got to think they're pretty happy with him, and all the reports that I've seen are saying he looks spectacular in OTAs and rookie minicamp and everything like that. Like, he looks like a receiver, even though he's built like an every-down running back. I got to think they're going to want to get him the ball in games. I don't know if he's going to take on all of Gio Bernard's touches in that way because, like I said, I like the way Williams looked. I think Puka Williams actually turns out to be like a practice squad player. But Joe Mixon has always – a lot of people say he's an injury-prone player, and then the people will come back and say, well, he only missed X amount of games last year. He wasn't injury-prone, but the dude played hurt for most of the year. So, yeah, he is injury-prone. But he gutted it out. But if you look at his game splits, how often does he actually put up elite numbers? How often does he blow up? It's not very often. And it's not for lack of talent. He doesn't do enough for me to justify making him a second or even a third-round pick. And Chris Evans being a late-round pick is more of something I'm on. And that and the Perine dude, coaches are talking him up, especially with his late season opportunity he got. He did really well, and I think I could see him being like a touchdown vulture at times. And if Mixon goes down, I think you'll see Perine with first and second down, some third downs, and then Evans being the third down back. So I would say Perine is the second guy you should grab. If you can get him late in the draft, you don't have very much depth at running back, go for him. Otherwise, Evans is a good dart throw.
Bulky, how many years have you been coming to Kentucky to play in the KFFSC now?
Man, that's a good question. I feel like it's got to be double digits. I mean, maybe a dozen? Does that sound right?
Yeah. Did you miss 1 year because of a child's birthday or maybe even birth? Did you miss?
I don't think I think every year since I started coming, I don't think I've ever missed a year in Kentucky.
Well, good. That makes me feel that makes me feel really, really great. It's something I want to talk to Nat Patzke about. But I'll tell you one thing. When you come to Kentucky, it's actually a bit of a misnomer because I don't think you've ever been in the city of Louisville in all these years because you come from the north and you stop there in Indiana at the casino because we are on the other side of the river to Caesars. And Nat, my house, my door-to-door to Lucas Oil Stadium is 111 miles,